when I look at the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger is out, Antonio Brown is gone. Le'Veon Bell is gone. Mason Rudolph is your backup. Your defense supposedly was suspect at the beginning of the season, and then you picked up Minka Fitzpatrick, who's made a world of difference to them. I just think that the Steelers right now are rolling in such a fashion that it's only going to, quality teams are what's going to have to take them out, and I believe even they'll beat those guys. I expect the Steelers to win at least 3 of their final 5 games, possibly 4, and I think that will be too much for Cleveland to catch them. That's why I'm rolling with Steelers.
They're ahead of Cleveland right now.
Yeah,
so you think the odds are with them.
Yes.
But I'm glad you brought up what the Steelers are going to have to do to win the division, to make the playoffs. Because take a look at the schedule, guys, side by side.
Right.
There we go.
Let's just take it game by game, and obviously they have the matchup against each other. Let's table that for a second.
They're beating them.
What's an easier game, Bengals or at Cardinals? Bengals are easier than at Cardinals or Bills. At Cardinals is an easier game than the Bills. Bills got 8 wins and a real defense.
Yeah, but primarily because of their defense.
Okay.
That's a home game for the Steelers. I think the Bills are going to lose that game.
If you look at point differentials, all that stuff, Bills are a better team.
I think Steelers going to win that game.
Then the Browns have the tougher assignment, obviously Ravens.
Yeah.
But then the Steelers have the tougher assignment again, which means 3 of the 4 weeks after they face each other, the Steelers really have the tougher game. You can argue Bills, Cardinals. I think that's a tougher game for the Steelers. But the point is, it could come down to the head-to-head matchup. Now, I appreciate what you said about Mike Tomlin. He's coach of the year. And he's making lemonade out of lemons. I mean, Mason Rudolph's not a starting quarterback. They don't have a starting quarterback. So he's trying to mix and match and figure out what he can do and what buttons to push when. And I appreciate what you said about Minka Fitzpatrick. Because when when Nick Saban says, that guy is as good as I've ever had, and then Mike Tomlin says, that guy, I need that guy in a midseason trade. And as soon as they get Minka Fitzpatrick, they go from, okay, a pretty good defense, to an elite defense. But look at the way the Browns are playing now. They've only started to tap their potential. Yes, it coincided with the schedule getting weaker. But also the offensive line has now had a chance to play together. They have their players healthy mostly for the first time all season. Still don't have their tight end, but they have both their wideouts and both their elite level running backs. For the first time now, the Cleveland Browns are rounding into shape just as the schedule is getting easier. And just when with spit and bubble gum, Mike Tomlin's trying to keep this thing together, has to bench his quarterback because they didn't really have a quarterback. I think the Browns are more, if either one of these teams make the playoffs at this moment, I think the Browns are more likely to make it, Stephen A.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I think when you look at these teams, if I took them head-to-head right now, just on a neutral field, I think the Browns are the better team. They're the more talented team. Obviously, they have more going on. But when you look at this season and how it will play out, the Steelers have the better chance to make the playoffs, and here's why. I believe the Steelers win this week, and I picked this schedule 3 weeks ago, and that was with Mason Rudolph starting at quarterback. And I believe if he was still starting, that the Browns would win, because I talked to people in Cleveland. They didn't want Mason Rudolph to continue playing quarterback because of the incident. They wanted him to continue playing quarterback because he couldn't read cover 2, because he couldn't make the right decisions. And now you have a guy in Duck Hodges who has no fear, who went into Los Angeles against Phillip Rivers, against the Chargers, and got a win. The defense made plays, and he came out and made the throws that he needed to make. And now we see him in relief against the Cincinnati Bengals, and he was a spark plug. He was a guy who didn't look like the moment was too big, and he might be from Sanford, and he's from a small school, but he wasn't one of those dudes that went to a small school and didn't excel, and went to a small school and didn't make the throws that he needed to make to put him in this position. He was the star of the preseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was one of those guys that was down in Latrobe that the fans started to want to see, that they came out to watch play. And he's going to be the spark plug that ignites this team to win this game against the Browns. And as the schedule unfolds, I believe it will get harder. And we may end up being that neither of these teams make the playoffs when we watch things shake out. But the Steelers have the better chance. They have the better coach. They have the better coach, and they have the better defense.
Well, first of all, we agree there. And let's just break this down. I'm not saying we don't know if either of them will make the team. The question was who had the better chance.
Right.
And the reason why I believe the Steelers have the better better chance. I believe the Steelers are going to avenge that Thursday night loss
agree with that.
next Sunday. That will put the Steelers up 2 games on Cleveland with 4 to go, which means that Cleveland will have to get a 3-game advantage over the Steelers in the last 4 weeks. I don't believe that's going to happen, and that's why I give the Steelers the better chance.
Well, I mean, look, real quick, and then I'll give it to you, Ryan. It's going to come down to the head-to-head matchup. What we're talking about in terms of this rematch will determine if either team's going to make the playoffs, the winner of next week is going to be the one. And so it comes down to that game most likely.
No, absolutely. But when I look at this game, I believe the factors that you guys mentioned about Mike Tomlin can't go overlooked. Mike Tomlin has had teams be in these type of rivalry, physical matchups. We did it 2 and 3 times with the Baltimore Ravens, and every time we were prepared in a way against who I believe in John Harbaugh is one of the best head coaches in the league. We were prepared just like they were every time. We were mentally focused even more than they were most times. And when I look at Mike Tomlin and Freddie Kitchens, it's not even close.
What does he do to do that, Ryan? Like, when you say he prepares you, what does Coach do to do that?
Listen, Coach Tomlin is about mental warfare, and you see it many times when he addresses the media. He always used to tell me, because I would ask him, Coach, we see so much of your personality throughout the building. We know so much about you. You open up to us so much. Why don't you do that in the post-game press conference? Why is it cliche after cliche? And he always told me, I'm not going to let them get a glimpse into my soul. But we saw that. Right? He showed us his soul. When you were in those meetings and the week was bigger and the week was important, he made sure you knew that. He wasn't one of these coaches that would lie to you and say, you know what, this week against the Baltimore Ravens with Ray Lewis, with Ed Reed, it's just like it was last week against the Jets. He will let you know what's on stake, what's at stake each game, each week, and he will let them know what's on stake this week.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.